This section is going to look at some of the muscles in the thorax and abdomen. So we have the muscles associated with the lungs and ribs for respiration. The intercostals, so inter means between, and costal is talking about the ribs. So the intercostals are actually between the ribs. We have the external intercostals, which you can see in light pink from here to here. And then deep to that are the internal intercostals. So if you remove the external intercostals, the internals are below it. And notice that the fiber angles of these two muscles go in opposite directions. So they're going to pull the ribs in separate directions, depending on whether you're inhaling or exhaling. The main respirator muscle is the diaphragm. So this is an inferior view, which means that I'm underneath the diaphragm looking up. You can see the rib cage is here above this. And what we've got is this large, flat muscle. And when it contracts, it's going to contract kind of out in all of these directions, and it flattens it, which is going to pull the entire rib cage and lungs down, which opens them up and allows air to flow in. When you exhale, that's not an active process of the diaphragm. When you exhale, you just relax the diaphragm. It rises back up and pushes the air back out of your lungs. So the diaphragm is actually going to originate on the ribs and the sternum. So it originates here, but its insertion is along this central tendon, along that flat muscle. You have 4 abdominal muscles. The first is this rectus abdominis. So rectus means straight, like a straight line. So you can see that these parallel fibers are all very straight. And you can see these intersections of tendon broken up, showing some of our evolutionary divisions. So those are your 6-pack abs, are those divisions here. And the rectus abdominis is going to flex the vertebral column. So think about doing a crunch or a sit-up. You're contracting the abs and flexing the vertebral column forward. Because this is straight, it doesn't actually twist the vertebrae, it only flexes forward. This is one of the ones where the origin and insertion rules don't really help you. So the rectus abdominis originates down here on the pubic crest, and then it inserts up here on the xiphoid process of the sternum. And which bone is moving depends on what motion you're doing. So imagine laying on your back and doing crunches, it's the xiphoid that's moving. But laying on your back and doing leg lifts, you're definitely moving your hip. So you have to just remember the origin and insertion for this one. The external oblique and the internal oblique. So these are on the sides over here. So again, you can see that the left side is showing you the superficial muscle. So this is our external oblique muscle. And then the right side over here is showing you the deeper muscles with kind of windows cut. So this is the external oblique as well. And then here's my internal oblique cut below that. So these are going to allow you to both flex and rotate the the vertebral column. And because their fiber layers are different, so the external goes kind of down towards the hip, and the internal is kind of going to go in the opposite direction. They are going to allow you to flex the trunk in different directions. And then our 4th most deep abdominal muscle is called the transverse abdominal. And transverse is because it runs through this transverse body plane right here. So this is parallel fibered this way. So the transverse abdominis is going to help compress the abdomen. So if you've ever tried to stand up straight for a picture and suck in your tummy, that's the transverse abdominal, which is doing that. And it's going to originate on the iliac crest. So our large iliac crest of the hip is over here. And then inserts along this central line. And you can see this a little better here on this deeper cut picture. So here's that transverse abdominis. And it inserts here in the center and then originates over here on the hip. So take a moment and reflect on the structure and differences of the 4 abdominal muscles.